I saved a woman from a burning car. At the hospital, she whispered, "Why did you save me? I killed your family." My name is David Morrison, and 5 years ago, I lost everything that mattered to me in a single moment. My wife Emma, my 7-year-old daughter Lily, and my 5-year-old son Max. All gone in a car accident that the police called a tragic case of drunk driving. The driver who hit them head-on had a blood alcohol level 3 times the legal limit. She died at the scene. My family died at the hospital, one by one, while I sat in a waiting room being told there was nothing more they could do. Emma went first, internal injuries too severe. Then Max, an hour later. His little body just couldn't handle the trauma. Lily held on for 6 hours, and I sat by her bedside, holding her hand, begging her to stay. But she slipped away just before dawn. The driver's name was Jennifer Walsh, 28 years old. No prior DUIs. By all accounts, a good person who made one terrible decision. She'd been at a friend's birthday party, had too much to drink, got behind the wheel anyway, and destroyed my entire world. I spent the next 5 years in a haze of grief and rage. I quit my job as an architect, couldn't focus, couldn't care about designing buildings when my family was gone. I lived off Emma's life insurance and our savings. I saw therapists, grief counselors, support groups. None of it helped. Nothing helped. I existed, but I wasn't alive. I was just a shell moving through days that all felt the same. Until 3 months ago, when everything changed. It was a Tuesday evening in October. I'd been driving back from the cemetery. I still visited their graves every week, when I saw the accident happen right in front of me. A sedan swerved suddenly, overcorrected, and slammed into a concrete barrier on I-35. The impact was devastating. The car crumpled like an accordion, spun twice, and came to rest against the barrier. And then, almost immediately, I saw flames. Fire erupted from the engine, spreading fast. Black smoke billowed into the darkening sky. Everyone around me slowed down, rubbernecking, but no one stopped. Cars drove past the burning wreck like it was someone else's problem, someone else's emergency, but I couldn't drive past. Maybe it was muscle memory from all those years of being a husband and father, of being someone who helped, who protected. Maybe it was because I knew exactly what it felt like to lose someone in a car accident. Maybe I was just tired of feeling helpless. I pulled over onto the shoulder, threw on my hazards, and ran toward the burning car. The heat hit me first, intense, suffocating. The chemical smell of burning plastic and rubber, the crackle of flames consuming metal and glass. Through the shattered driver's side window, I could see someone slumped over the steering wheel. A woman, unconscious, blood on her face. The airbag had deployed, but she wasn't moving. "Hey!" I shouted, pulling at the door handle. Locked. The crash had warped the frame. "Can you hear me?" No response. The flames were getting bigger, spreading from the engine toward the passenger compartment. I looked around desperately for something to break the window with. There, a chunk of concrete that had broken off from the barrier. I grabbed it, smashed it against the driver's side window. The safety glass spider-webbed but didn't break. I hit it again, harder, and this time it gave way. The smoke was thick now, pouring into my lungs. I reached through the broken window, unlocked the door, and pulled it open. The heat was overwhelming. My skin felt like it was blistering. I unbuckled her seatbelt with shaking hands, got my arms under her shoulders, and pulled. She was dead weight, completely unconscious. I dragged her out of the car, stumbling backward, pulling her away from the flames. We made it maybe 20 feet before the gas tank exploded. The force of it knocked me forward onto my knees, still holding the woman. Heat washed over us, and I covered her body with mine, shielding her from the debris raining down. When I looked up, the car was completely engulfed. Black smoke rose in a column that had to be visible for miles. Sirens wailed in the distance, getting closer. Someone had called 911. I looked down at the woman I'd pulled from the car. She was maybe mid-30s, dark hair matted with blood, a gash on her forehead. Her breathing was shallow but steady. She was alive. I'd saved her. Paramedics arrived minutes later. They took over, loading her onto a stretcher, checking her vitals, asking me questions I could barely answer. Was I hurt? Had I seen what caused the crash? Did I know who she was? No, I said to that last question. I've never seen her before. They took her to St. David's Medical Center. I followed in my car, not really sure why. Maybe because I'd just saved someone's life and wanted to know if she'd make it. Maybe because for the first time in 5 years, I sat in the emergency room waiting area, covered in soot and ash, my hands trembling from the adrenaline crash. A nurse came out after about an hour. "Are you the man who pulled her out of the car?" she asked. "Yes. She's stable. Concussion, some broken ribs, second-degree burns on her left arm. But she's going to be okay. You saved her life." I nodded, feeling a strange disconnect. I'd saved a life. After 5 years of wishing I could have saved my family, I'd actually saved someone. "Can I see her?" I asked, surprising myself. The nurse hesitated. "She's awake but groggy. Are you family?" "No, I want to make sure she's okay. Let me check with her. What's your name?" "David Morrison." The nurse disappeared. 5 minutes later, she came back and beckoned me to follow her. We walked through the emergency department to a curtained-off bay. The woman from the car was lying in a hospital bed, her head bandaged, her left arm wrapped in gauze. An IV dripped clear fluid into her right arm. Her eyes were open, staring at the ceiling. "You have a visitor," the nurse said gently. "The man who pulled you out of the car." The woman turned her head slowly to look at me. Her eyes widened, and then she started crying. Not gentle tears, heaving, gasping sobs that made her whole body shake. The heart monitor started beeping faster. "I'm sorry," I said quickly, stepping back. "I didn't mean to upset you. I just wanted to make sure you were okay." "Why?" she gasped between sobs. "Why did you save me?" "Because you needed help," I said, confused by the question. "Because I couldn't just drive past." She was staring at me with an expression I couldn't read. Horror, recognition, something else. "Do you know who I am?" she whispered. "No," I said. "Should I?" Her face crumpled. Fresh tears streamed down her cheeks. "I'm Jessica Walsh," she said, her voice breaking on the name. Jessica Walsh. The name meant nothing to me. And then she said, "Jennifer Walsh was my sister, my twin sister." The room tilted. The air left my lungs. Jennifer Walsh. The drunk driver who killed my family. "I don't understand," I managed to say. 5 years ago," Jessica whispered. "My sister killed your family. I know who you are, David Morrison. I've seen your face in the news articles, in the court documents, everywhere. And you just saved my life." I couldn't move, couldn't speak, couldn't process what she was telling me. "Why did you save me?" she asked again, her voice barely audible. "After what she did to you. Why would you save me?" I should have felt angry, should have felt something. Rage, betrayal, cosmic irony. But all I felt was numb. "I didn't know who you were," I said finally. "Would it have mattered?" Jessica asked. "If you'd known, would you have left me there?" I opened my mouth to answer, but no words came out. Because I didn't know. If I'd recognized her as Jennifer Walsh's sister, would I have pulled her from that burning car? Or would I have walked away and let her die? "I need you to leave," Jessica said quietly. "Please, I can't do this right now." I left, walked out of that hospital in a daze, got in my car and drove home. And for the first time in 5 years, I couldn't visit my family's graves. I couldn't face them, because I'd saved the sister of the woman who killed them. The next few days were surreal. The local news picked up the story. Man saves stranger from burning car. Discovers shocking connection to his past. Reporters called my phone, showed up at my door. I didn't answer, didn't talk to anyone. I kept replaying that moment. Seeing the car crash, running toward the flames, pulling Jessica out. If I'd known who she was, would I have done it? I wanted to believe I would have, that I was a good enough person to save a life, regardless of whose sister she was. But I wasn't sure. And that uncertainty haunted me. A week after the accident, I received a letter, hand-delivered to my door in a manila envelope with no return address. Inside was a handwritten note on hospital stationery. David, I don't expect you to read this. I don't expect you to forgive me or Jennifer or any of the impossible things that have happened. But I need to tell you some things. Things you deserve to know. My sister Jennifer was not a bad person. I know that doesn't matter to you. I know it doesn't change what she did or bring back your family. But I need you to know that she was kind and thoughtful, and she spent every day of her life helping people as a social worker. The night of the accident, she'd been at my birthday party. I was the one who kept refilling her wine glass. I was the one who didn't stop her when she said she was fine to drive. I was the one who let her get behind the wheel. I've spent 5 years living with the guilt of that, knowing that I helped kill 3 innocent people. Your wife, your children, Emma, Lily, and Max. I know their names. I've said them in therapy, in my nightmares, in every prayer I've made asking for forgiveness I don't deserve. Jennifer died that night too, but I didn't. I've had to live with what we did, what I did, and then you saved me. Why? I've asked myself that question every hour since I woke up in that hospital. Why would the man whose life we destroyed risk his own life to save mine? The only answer I can come up with is that you're a better person than I could ever be. That you have the kind of humanity that I lost the night my sister died and your family died and the world became this dark, terrible place where nothing makes sense anymore. I'm moving away, leaving Austin. I can't stay in this city anymore, not with you here, not with the reminder of what I took from you. I'm so sorry, David, for everything, for the accident, for surviving it when Jennifer didn't, for existing as a living reminder of the worst day of your life. I hope you can find peace someday. You deserve it more than anyone. Jessica. I read the letter 3 times. Then I folded it carefully and put it in my desk drawer, next to the last birthday cards my kids had made me. Jessica Walsh thought I was a better person than I was. She thought I'd saved her because I was noble, because I had some kind of profound humanity. But the truth was simpler and more selfish than that. I'd saved her because in that moment, I wasn't thinking about Jennifer Walsh or the accident or my dead family. I was just a man who saw someone in danger and reacted on instinct, and now I had to live with the fact that the person I'd saved was connected to the person who'd destroyed everything I loved. 2 weeks later, I was back at the cemetery, standing in front of 3 graves with 3 names etched in marble. Emma Morrison, beloved wife and mother. Lily Morrison, forever our angel. Max Morrison, our bright star. I saved her, I told them, speaking out loud like I always did when I visited. Jennifer Walsh's sister, her twin. I didn't know who she was until after, but I saved her. The wind rustled through the trees. A few leaves drifted down onto the graves. I don't know if you'd be proud or disappointed, I continued. I don't know what it means that I saved her. Was it fate, coincidence, some kind of cosmic test? No answer. There never was. But talking to them helped anyway. Jessica said she was the one who let Jennifer drive drunk. She said she's been living with the guilt for 5 years, just like I've been living with the grief. I sat down on the grass like I always did, traced Emma's name with my finger. What do I do now? I asked. Do I hate her because she's connected to Jennifer? Do I forgive her because she's a victim too? Do I just try to forget this ever happened? The graves were silent. Beautiful marble markers on a perfectly manicured lawn, housing the remains of the 3 people I loved most in the world. "I miss you," I whispered. "Every day, every hour. I'd give anything to have you back. Anything." But they were gone, and I was here. Still breathing, still living, still somehow moving forward, even though it felt impossible. I stayed at the cemetery until the sun started setting. Then I drove home, made dinner I didn't eat, and went to bed, and dreamed, for the first time in 5 years, of something other than the accident. I dreamed of Emma, smiling at me in our kitchen. "You did good," she said. "You saved her. But she's—" "I know who she is," Emma interrupted. "And you saved her anyway. That's what makes you good, David. Not that you saved a stranger, that you saved her." I woke up crying. 3 weeks after the accident, I got another letter, this time with a return address in Colorado. "David, I said I was moving away, and I did. I'm in Denver now, starting over. New city, new job, new everything. Running away from guilt, probably. But sometimes running is the only option. I shouldn't write to you again. I know that. But I can't stop thinking about something you said in the hospital. You said you saved me because I needed help, not because of who I was or who my sister was. Just because I was a person in danger. I've spent 5 years defining myself by what happened that night. Jennifer's sister. The woman who let a drunk driver kill a family. The person who ruined lives. But you saw past all of that, even before you knew. You just saw a person who needed help. I don't know if this makes sense. I don't know if I'm allowed to feel anything but guilt and shame for the rest of my life. But your act of saving me, of not knowing who I was and still risking everything, it made me think that maybe I'm more than the worst thing my family ever did. I'm in therapy, real therapy this time, not just grief counseling, working through the guilt, the survivor's remorse, all of it. My therapist says I need to forgive myself before I can move forward. I don't know if I ever will, but I'm trying. Thank you for saving my life, even if you regret it. Even if you wish you'd left me in that car. You gave me a chance to try to be better than I was. To maybe someday do something good enough to balance the scales. I won't write again. I promise. This is my closure, I guess. Saying thank you and goodbye to the man who showed me more humanity than I deserved. Take care of yourself, David. Jessica. I stared at the letter for a long time. Then I did something I hadn't done in 5 years. I wrote back. Jessica, I don't regret saving you. I wish I could say I knew who you were and saved you anyway because I'm some kind of saint. But I didn't know. I just saw someone in danger. But here's what I've realized. It doesn't matter that I didn't know. What matters is what I did. I saved a life. For the first time since I lost my family, I actually helped someone. I made a difference in a moment. You didn't kill my family. Your sister did, and she paid for it with her own life. You were just someone at a party who made a mistake in judgment. A terrible mistake with horrific consequences, yes, but a mistake. I've spent 5 years angry. At Jennifer, at God, at the universe, at myself for not being there to protect them. And that anger hasn't brought them back. It hasn't made anything better. It's just been poison I've been drinking, hoping it would hurt someone else. I'm not saying I forgive you. I don't even know if there's anything to forgive. But I'm saying that I don't blame you. Not anymore. You're not responsible for what your sister did. And you deserve to live your life without carrying that weight. My therapist, I started seeing one again after the accident, says that forgiveness isn't about the other person. It's about releasing yourself from the burden of anger. I'm not there yet. But maybe saving you was the first step. Don't feel guilty for surviving. Don't feel guilty for being saved. Just live. Live well enough for both you and Jennifer, and maybe someday in some small way that'll balance the scales. Take care of yourself, Jessica. David. I mailed the letter before I could change my mind. 2 weeks later, she wrote back. And then I wrote back. And then she did. Our letters became longer, more personal. She told me about her new job as a teacher in Denver. I told her about trying to get back into architecture, taking on small freelance projects for the first time in years. She wrote about her therapy sessions, about learning to separate herself from her sister's actions. I wrote about my support group for people who'd lost family to drunk drivers, about the strange irony of attending those meetings after saving Jessica. We never talked on the phone, never video chatted. Just letters, old-fashioned and somehow safer than real-time communication. 6 months after the accident, Jessica wrote something that changed everything. "David, I need to tell you something I've never told anyone. Not my therapist, not my family, not anyone. The night of the accident, Jennifer and I had a fight, a big one. She'd been struggling with drinking for months, and I'd been enabling her. Pouring her drinks, pretending everything was fine, being a good twin, a good sister, even when I knew she had a problem. That night I confronted her, told her she needed help, and she got angry, said I was being controlling, that she was fine, that she knew her limits. And then she grabbed her keys and left, and I let her. I was so angry at her for not listening that I just let her walk out the door. If I'd stopped her, physically stopped her, taken her keys, called her a cab, your family would still be alive. Jennifer would still be alive. Everything would be different. So yes, Jennifer was driving, but I was the one who let her go. I carry that every day. I'm telling you this because I need you to know the whole truth. I need you to know what I did, and if that changes how you see me, if that makes you regret saving me, I understand. I'm not looking for forgiveness or absolution. I just need you to know, Jessica." I read her letter sitting in my car outside the cemetery. And for the first time since Emma, Lily, and Max died, I cried for someone else's pain. I wrote back immediately. "Jessica, you couldn't have known. You couldn't have known that letting her leave would result in her death and the death of 3 people. You couldn't have seen the future. You had a fight with your sister. That's normal. That's human. You didn't put her in the car. You didn't force her to drive drunk. You didn't cause the accident. Jennifer made a choice, a terrible, fatal choice, and yes, you could have stopped her, but you couldn't have known what would happen. I've spent 5 years playing the what-if game. What if Emma had taken a different route home? What if they'd left my sister-in-law's house 5 minutes later or earlier? What if I'd offered to pick them up instead of letting Emma drive? What if, what if, what if? But none of those what-ifs change what happened. None of them bring them back. You're not responsible for Jennifer's choice. You're just someone who loved her sister and couldn't save her from herself. I understand that better than anyone. I don't regret saving you. I need you to know that. Saving you reminded me that I'm still a person who helps people, even after everything. Maybe especially after everything. David, our letters continued. They became a lifeline for both of us, a way to process grief and guilt with someone who understood in a way no therapist or support group ever could. A year after the accident, Jessica asked if we could meet in person. "I'll be in Austin visiting some old friends," she wrote. "I understand if you don't want to, but I'd like to thank you face to face, to see the person who saved my life and changed it in ways I'm still figuring out." I said yes. We met at a coffee shop, neutral territory. I got there early, nervous in a way I hadn't been since my first date with Emma. "What do you say to the twin sister of the woman who killed your family? How do you act around someone you'd been writing to for a year but had only met once? In a hospital? In the worst circumstances?" Jessica walked in exactly on time. She looked different than I remembered. Healthier, less haunted. Her hair was longer. She was smiling as she scanned the coffee shop looking for me. When our eyes met, she froze. Then she walked over slowly, clutching her purse like a lifeline. "Hi," she said. "Hi," I replied. We sat down. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. "I'm sorry," we both said at the same time, then laughed awkwardly. "You first," I said. Jessica took a deep breath. "I'm sorry for everything, for what Jennifer did, for surviving when she didn't, for making you save me. for existing as a reminder of the worst day of your life. Stop, I said gently. You don't need to apologize for existing, and you didn't make me save you. I chose to. Why? Jessica asked, echoing the question she'd asked in the hospital a year ago. After everything, why? Because it was the right thing to do, I said, because in that moment, you were just a person who needed help, and I had the ability to help. But if you'd known who I was— I've thought about that a lot, I interrupted. Would I have saved you if I'd known? I'd like to think yes, but I honestly don't know, and I'm grateful I didn't have to make that choice. Jessica's eyes filled with tears. You're a good person, David. Better than I could ever be. I'm just a person trying to survive, I corrected. Same as you. We talked for 3 hours. About grief, about guilt, about the strange path that had brought us from that hospital room to this coffee shop. About Emma, Lily, and Max, I showed her photos, told her stories. She cried, apologized for crying, and I told her it was okay. They were real people, I said. Not just victims in a news story, and I want people to know who they were. Jessica told me about Jennifer, about the sister she'd loved, the social worker who dedicated her life to helping kids in foster care, the woman who'd struggled with alcohol and depression and never asked for help. She wasn't a monster, Jessica said quietly. She was just human, flawed and struggling and ultimately broken by her own demons. I know, I said, and I meant it. Somewhere in the past year, I'd stopped seeing Jennifer Walsh as a faceless killer and started seeing her as a person who'd made a terrible mistake with irreversible consequences. It didn't make it okay. It didn't bring my family back, but it made it human. Before we left the coffee shop, Jessica asked me something unexpected. Would you want to meet my family? She asked hesitantly. My parents. They've carried so much guilt about Jennifer, about what she did. They've never forgiven themselves for not getting her help sooner. I thought about it. A year ago, the answer would have been an immediate no. But now, maybe someday, I said. Not yet, but someday. Jessica nodded, understanding. Whenever you're ready, if you're ever ready, we hugged goodbye in the parking lot. It felt strange, but also right somehow. Two people connected by tragedy, trying to find a way forward. Thank you, Jessica said, for saving me, for writing back, for seeing me as more than Jennifer's sister. Thank you for trusting me with your story, I replied, for helping me see beyond the anger. Over the next year, Jessica and I continued to write. She visited Austin a few more times and we'd meet for coffee, gradually becoming something like friends. Not quite friends, our connection was too complicated for that simple word. But something. She was there when I finally took down the shrine I'd built in my house, the untouched rooms where Emma and the kids' things had sat for 5 years. She helped me pack up their clothes for donation, crying with me as we folded Lily's favorite dresses and Max's superhero t-shirts. You're not forgetting them by moving forward, Jessica said softly as we worked. You're honoring them by choosing to live. I was there, via phone, when Jessica started dating someone, for the first time since Jennifer died, when she called me, nervous and guilty about finding happiness. You deserve happiness, I told her firmly. Jennifer would want that for you. Your whole family would want that. What about Emma? Jessica asked quietly. What would she want for you? I thought about my dream, about Emma's voice saying, you did good. She'd want me to be happy too, I said. Eventually, when I'm ready. 2 years after saving Jessica, I went back to work as an architect. A small firm hired me to design a community center, and I threw myself into the project, creating something new, something beautiful, something that would serve people. It felt meaningful in a way nothing had felt in years. The community center was dedicated to families affected by drunk driving. It had support group meeting rooms, counseling offices, a memorial wall, and a children's play area. I designed it with Emma, Lily, and Max in mind, what they would have wanted, what could have helped us before we lost them. At the dedication ceremony, I saw Jessica in the crowd. She'd flown in from Denver without telling me. When I spotted her, she gave me a small wave and a smile. After the ceremony, she approached me. "This is beautiful," she said, looking around at the building. "They would be so proud." "I hope so," I said. "I know so," Jessica replied firmly. "You took your grief and turned it into something that helps people. That's the best way to honor them. I learned that from you," I admitted. "Watching you transform your guilt into purpose. You becoming a teacher, helping kids, making a difference. That inspired me." Jessica blinked back tears. "We're quite a pair, aren't we? The broken people trying to fix themselves by helping others. Maybe that's the only way anyone heals," I said. 3 years after the accident, I finally agreed to meet Jessica's parents. They were older than I'd imagined, worn down by grief and guilt. Jessica's father, Robert, shook my hand with tears in his eyes. "Thank you for saving our daughter," he said, his voice breaking. After losing Jennifer, if we'd lost Jessica too. Jessica's mother, Patricia, hugged me tightly. "I'm so sorry," she whispered, "for what Jennifer did, for your loss. We think about your family every day." We sat in their living room, surrounded by photos of both daughters, Jennifer and Jessica as babies, as children, as teenagers. Identical faces, identical smiles. "Jennifer was sick," Patricia said. "We didn't see it clearly enough, didn't push hard enough for her to get help. We thought she could handle it. We were wrong." "You can't blame yourselves," I said, the words coming easier than I'd expected. "Jennifer was an adult. She made her own choices. So did we," Robert said. "The choice to look the other way, to make excuses, to enable. We all make choices we regret," I said quietly. "The question is what we do after." We talked for hours. They told me about Jennifer, the good and the bad, the struggles and the triumphs. I told them about Emma, Lily, and Max. We cried together, this strange group of people, connected by the worst thing that had ever happened to any of us. Before I left, Patricia gave me something. "Jennifer wrote this," she said, handing me a sealed envelope. "The day before the accident. It's her journal entry. We found it after everything. We've kept it private, but I think you should read it." I took the envelope home but didn't open it for a week. I was afraid of what it might say, afraid of being pulled back into anger and grief I'd worked so hard to process. Finally, one night I opened it. The handwriting was shaky, emotional. "I need help. I know I need help. I keep saying I'll quit drinking, that I'll get it under control, but I can't. Not on my own. Tomorrow I'm going to call that rehab facility Jessica told me about. Tomorrow I'm going to ask for help. I'm scared. Scared of admitting I can't handle this. Scared of being weak, but I'm more scared of where this path leads if I don't change. Tomorrow. Tomorrow I'll get help. Tomorrow I'll start over. Tomorrow I'll be better. But tomorrow never came for Jennifer. The accident happened that night. Before she could make that call, before she could get help, before she could start over. I folded the letter carefully and added it to the box where I kept Jessica's letters and the last things my kids had made for me. Jennifer had wanted to change. She'd recognized she had a problem. She'd been ready to get help, but she'd run out of time. I called Jessica that night. "She was going to get help," I said. "The day after the accident. Your mother showed me her journal entry." Jessica was quiet for a long moment. "She told me that night, at the party, she said she was done drinking, that this was her last night before rehab. And then we fought and she left and she made one last, terrible choice," I finished. "I've wondered so many times what would have happened if I'd stopped her." Jessica said, "If I'd taken her keys, called her a cab, driven her home myself, she'd be in recovery now. Your family would be alive. Everything would be different. Or maybe something else would have happened," I said. Maybe she would have relapsed. Maybe the accident would have happened a different day with different victims. Or maybe she'd be 3 years sober and thriving. We'll never know. I hate not knowing, Jessica whispered. Me too, I admitted. But we can't live in the what-ifs. We have to live in what is. And what is? What is, I saved you. You're alive. You're helping people as a teacher. I'm building again. We're both moving forward. That's what is. 4 years after saving Jessica, I scattered Emma, Lily, and Max's ashes in their favorite place. A beach in California where we'd vacationed every summer. I'd kept their ashes in urns for 4 years, unable to let them go. But it was time. Jessica came with me, and her parents, and my sister, who I'd barely spoken to in years but who'd reached out after seeing the community center dedication. We stood on the beach at sunset, 5 people who'd all been touched by that one terrible night, and we said our final goodbyes. I spoke to Emma first. You made me a better man. You taught me what love looks like, what family means. I'll carry that forever. Rest easy, my love. Then Lily. My sweet girl, you would have been 12 now. I think about who you would have become every day. I hope wherever you are, you're still drawing pictures and collecting rocks and believing in magic. Finally, Max. Buddy, you'd be 10. I miss our superhero games. I miss your laugh. I miss everything about you. Be good, okay? Watch over your sister and your mom. I released their ashes into the ocean, watching the wind carry them out over the water. Jessica's hand found mine, squeezing tight. They're free now, she said softly, and so are you. 5 years after the accident that killed my family. 5 years after saving the woman whose sister caused that accident. I stood in my new apartment. Not the house I'd shared with Emma, but a fresh start. And I felt something I hadn't felt in half a decade. Hope. Not the hope that things would go back to how they were. Not the hope that the pain would disappear. But the hope that I could build something new from the ashes. That I could honor my family by living fully, by helping others. By choosing compassion over anger. Jessica called that evening, like she did every week. How are you doing? She asked. Better, I said, and I meant it. I'm designing a new school. I went on a date last week, first one since Emma, and I didn't spend the whole time feeling guilty. David, that's wonderful, Jessica said, and I could hear the smile in her voice. How about you? I got promoted to head teacher, and I'm in therapy still, but it's helping. I can go whole days now without thinking about that night. That's progress, I said. It is, she agreed. Then hesitantly. Can I tell you something? Always. Saving me that night, writing those letters, being my friend when you had every reason to hate me. It gave me permission to believe I deserved to be saved. That I was worth saving, and that changed everything. You always deserved to be saved, I said firmly. You always were worth it. I know that now, Jessica said, because you showed me. After we hung up, I sat on my balcony watching the sunset. 5 years ago, I'd lost everything, and in saving Jessica, in the strange, painful, beautiful journey that had followed, I'd found a way to live again. Not the same life, not the life I'd planned with Emma and Lily and Max, but a life nonetheless. A life where I could help people, create beautiful things, honor the family I'd lost by choosing to be better than my worst impulses. I saved a woman from a burning car. At the hospital, she whispered, "Why did you save me? I killed your family." But she hadn't. Her sister had. And even that wasn't quite right. Jennifer had made a choice, one terrible choice in a moment of weakness, and it had cost her life and the lives of 3 people I loved. But Jessica was just a person who'd loved her sister, who'd made mistakes, who'd survived when she didn't think she deserved to. Just like me. In saving her, I'd saved myself. I'd found a purpose beyond grief. I'd discovered that compassion is stronger than anger, that forgiveness is freedom, that moving forward doesn't mean forgetting. Emma, Lily, and Max would always be part of me. The hole they left would never fully heal. But around that hole, I could build something new, something meaningful, something that honored them. And maybe that's what they would have wanted all along. Not for me to stop living, but to live so fully, so purposefully, so compassionately that their loss created ripples of goodness in the world. I saved Jessica from a burning car. And in doing so, I learned that saving others is how we save ourselves.